Peace. You are in the foxhole with Naya Wari. We're talking about spirit reality with an African perspective. Today we're going to be talking to you about the Seer. That person who through ritual discipline has engaged the ethereal. That person who dreams dreams, whose intuitive faculty is intact and operable. He or she who catches glimpse of that which natural light does not reveal. My first recollection of what I've come to term the uncanny coincidence, I was around 17 years old. My father, with whom I had shared a strained relationship, had underwent a spiritual transformation. Long gone were the days of late nights, missing weekends, and a mother's tears. The triple beam no longer laid in the den closet, and those associates I called uncles no longer left those cryptic messages. Yet the consequence of a work, life, and street balance remained evident in his home. Like him, I acquired a taste for criminality and the adrenaline-fueled days and nights in association with the rabble-rousers I would come to know. Kenny Boy, Liberia Mike, Shantae, and a few others like myself were transplants to a city in the South. Through the high school years, we were thick as thieves, young adolescents exploring the possibility of criminal exploit while standing firmly in opposition to authority. But those years went quickly past. By the end of my senior year, those associations were no more. But a chance meeting with a gentleman thug named Smith piqued my curiosity, as I'd hoped that coming under his mentorship would put me in contact with something more criminally systematic. Smith was 34, criminally active and good with his hands. At that time and in that city, the reputation of Smith and his brother Stick preceded them. Though their reputation was indicative of the griminess and grit of the outlaw, they were the kind of guys to greet your grandmother with a gentle, "Hello, ma'am." I'd check in with them weekly, sometimes daily over the course of the next year. Looking back at it, I'm sure that in my adolescent fervor and desire for the possibility of what would come of my association with them, that I became somewhat of a nuisance. Nevertheless, it was against the backdrop of those street dreams, sponsored by a black youth's desire for self-empowerment, that the universal God, as the elder ancestor Dick Gregory called them, began to heighten my awareness of those spiritual forces at play in my life. My father became one of the mediums by which the divine made themselves known unto me. His practicing of the ritual fast, devotion of time spent in meditation and prayer, as well as his incessant study of the biblical text, was both foreign and peculiar to me. Just as peculiar to me, but powerful in its effect, was this uncanny knack for knowing he began to display. Over the years, I'd be careful about sharing my personal information with him, not because he was loose-lipped or one who relished in the idea of sharing the dream, intuition, or impression that he'd perceived to be given of the Lord, but so that he'd remain a clear channel, unmolested by the foreknowledge of events unfolding in my life. The event that set a precedent for the role he'd play over the next 24 years of our life experience together was the telling of a dream that's detail was so uncannily on point that I had no doubt that the giver of that dream was divinity themselves. One evening, while in association with those infamous brothers, we sat in a vehicle discussing a financial opportunity with this guy they knew. He was telling them about a crew from out of town distributing weight out of a house which we'd parked a few blocks up from. Of course, he told of the untold treasures, how easy it would be, and suggested a plan of action, which involved the shotgunning of the person who answered the front door, after which we'd storm our way in. Thankfully, both Stick and Smitty thought it better to sit on the idea. The intel they gathered confirmed that there was a crew of out-of-towners distributing weight out of that house, but that they utilized a young woman whose addiction had gotten the better of her as a liaison between themselves and the local dealers. That young woman was said to be in a sexual relationship with one of the guys from that crew. More importantly, that young woman was the wife of the guy who suggested shotgunning the person who answered the door and then storming our way in. The dream my father shared with me was descriptive of the van we were sitting in when that guy, motivated by jealousy, put us on to an out-of-town crew distributing weight in a city in the South.